I knew something was wrong the second I walked in the door. The lights were off. Her phone was gone. The silence felt wrong. Too heavy. Too cold. We lived in a small apartment in Austin. Nothing fancy. Just enough for two people who loved each other. Or at least that's what I thought. Her name was Rachel. Blonde. Sharp-tongued. Witty. Always the loudest laugh in the room. We met at a friend's barbecue 3 years ago. She spilled beer on my shirt, laughed about it, then kissed me before the night was over. That's who she was. Wild. Magnetic. Impossible to ignore. I thought I'd tamed her. Or maybe I thought she'd chosen to be tamed. Turns out you can't cage a storm. That night, the one where everything started to fall apart, I came home late from work. Double shift. Exhausted. Hungry. I had this dumb idea in my head that she'd be waiting with takeout and a smile. Instead, I found a note on the counter. 5 words. I need space. Don't call. No explanation. No warning. Just gone. First, I thought she was having a breakdown. Stress, maybe. Her job was demanding. She worked in marketing for a startup, long hours, crazy pressure, toxic bosses. We talked about her quitting. I told her we'd figure it out together. But then her friend Melissa slipped up. Said something she didn't mean to. She's been staying at Tyler's place. Tyler. That name hit like a brick to the chest. Tyler was her friend. Some rich guy she met at a networking event months ago. Drove a Tesla. Owned a condo downtown. Always a little too friendly. Always texting her late at night. She told me he was gay. He wasn't. And suddenly everything made sense. The extra makeup. The sudden gym obsession. The late meetings that didn't add up. The new clothes she said she got on sale but still had the tags from Nordstrom. I felt like an idiot. I wanted to scream. To break something. But all I did was sit on the floor, holding that stupid note, and stare at the wall for hours. Because deep down, I already knew. I just didn't want to believe it. The days that followed felt like walking through fog. Thick. Suffocating. Endless. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just existed. Barely. Every room in that apartment reminded me of her. The chipped mug she always used. The half-used bottle of shampoo in the shower. The stupid lavender candle she insisted on lighting every night before bed. I couldn't even turn on the TV without hearing her voice in my head, mocking my taste in shows or laughing at the dumb commercials I liked. She was everywhere, and yet completely gone. I tried texting her. Once. Just a simple, "Can we talk?" No response. Then I called. Straight to voicemail. By day 3, her number was blocked. Just like that. I went from the man she claimed to love to a ghost she didn't want haunting her shiny new life. I didn't even get the dignity of a proper goodbye. Just silence. Emptiness. Erasure. It's wild how love can rot. One moment you're building a future. The next, you're sifting through the ashes of a past you thought was still burning. I replayed everything in my mind, over and over, like a sick movie I couldn't stop watching. The last few months suddenly took on a new light. The nights she came home late and didn't want to talk. The way she flinched when I touched her. The forced smiles. The distracted eyes. How didn't I see it? Was I that blind? Or did I just not want to admit that the woman I loved was slowly, quietly leaving me while still sleeping in my bed? One night, about a week after she left, I caved. I went to Tyler's building. I don't know what I was hoping for. Closure, maybe. An explanation. Something to make sense of the madness. I sat in my car across the street like some cliché heartbroken ex, watching the entrance like a damn stalker. And then, around midnight, there they were, laughing, holding hands. She looked different, lighter, like a weight had been lifted, like I was the weight. He kissed her on the forehead. She leaned into him, comfortable, intimate, familiar. That's when it hit me. This wasn't new. This didn't just start when she left. She'd been his long before I even knew I was losing her. And that was the real betrayal. Not that she left, but that she'd already emotionally moved on while I was still fighting for us. That while I was planning vacations and talking about getting a dog, she was falling in love with someone else under my nose. And I, like a fool, kept loving her harder, thinking that would fix whatever was broken. I drove home in silence. No music, no tears, just that hollow, ringing numbness you get when your world stops making sense. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I opened her drawer and started packing up every trace of her. Every sock, every book, every damn trinket she ever brought into my space. I put it all in a box and left it outside my door with a sticky note. Come get your lies. A week passed. She never came for the box. It sat there like a monument to our failure, soaked by 2 days of rain, kicked over by some neighbor's dog, half-opened and spilling pieces of her across the front steps. I should have thrown it out. Burned it. But something in me held back. Maybe I still wanted her to care enough to come back, even if just for her things. Pathetic, I know. But when you love someone that deeply, even their scraps feel sacred. You cling to the remnants because that's all you have left. I finally hauled it to the dumpster myself. Didn't say a word. Didn't take a last look. Just dumped it and walked away. It was supposed to feel cathartic. It didn't. All it did was empty the apartment a little more. Her absence became louder. The silence heavier. I kept checking my phone like an addict waiting for a fix, just hoping to see her name pop up. Hoping for some explanation. Even an apology. Anything. But nothing ever came. And then came the photos. Melissa, the same friend who accidentally spilled the truth, texted me late one night. No words. Just screenshots. Instagram stories from some rooftop bar. Rachel, in a tight red dress I'd never seen before, kissing Tyler under string lights while people cheered around them. Champagne in her hand. A birthday caption, celebrating love, life, and everything I deserve. Everything she deserves. That phrase clawed at me. Like I hadn't spent 3 years giving her everything I had. Like she hadn't built her life on my shoulders. When she lost her job last year, I covered rent for months without complaint. When she got sick, I stayed up nights taking care of her. When she doubted herself, I believed enough for both of us. And now she celebrated walking away from all of that like it was a victory. I almost replied. I almost sent a message full of all the anger that had been building inside me, the betrayal, the humiliation, the heartbreak. But what would that do? She'd already rewritten the story. In her version, she wasn't a cheater. She was a woman who chose herself. And me? I was just the footnote. The past. The man she outgrew. I didn't want revenge. I didn't even want her back anymore. What I wanted was to understand. Not just her, but myself. How did I become the kind of man who ignored the signs? Who let love blind him so badly he couldn't see the cracks forming beneath his own feet? I started journaling. Just small entries at first, angry, bitter, broken. Then longer ones. Honest ones. I wrote everything. The good. The bad. The ugly truths I hadn't wanted to admit while we were still together. And somewhere between the pages, I started seeing things clearly. Rachel didn't leave because I failed her. She left because I wasn't flashy enough. Not rich enough. Not hungry for status the way Tyler was. He offered her a world I never could: rooftop parties, influencer friends, curated lifestyles made for likes and admiration. She didn't want stability. She wanted spotlight. And I was just the backstage crew. That realization didn't hurt less. But at least it made sense. I stopped asking why. It took time, weeks of sleepless nights, endless replays of every memory, every fight, every red flag I dismissed as love's growing pains. But eventually, I reached a place where I no longer needed answers from her. She'd made her choice. And honestly, she probably made it long before she had the courage to act on it. Maybe even while lying beside me, whispering promises she had no intention of keeping. That was the real cruelty, not just the betrayal itself, but the performance. The slow, calculated erosion of what we had, masked as indifference, disguised as distance, passed off as exhaustion. She didn't just cheat on me. She erased me while I was still loving her. People talk a lot about anger after a breakup. They expect rage, outbursts, destroyed furniture, and drunken texts. But my grief wasn't loud. It was quiet. Dull. Like a slow poison in my bloodstream. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just shrank. Stopped calling friends back. Stopped going out. The world kept moving, but I was frozen in place, trying to make sense of a future that had evaporated overnight. Every plan we'd made, the trip to Denver, the dog we wanted to adopt, the apartment we'd planned to upgrade into something more permanent, all of it vanished like smoke. What was left was silence and an unbearable feeling that I had been completely, utterly disposable. I started going for long walks at night. At first, just to escape the apartment. Later, because I needed the movement to drown out the noise in my head. The city looked different after her. Sharper. Meaner. Every happy couple I passed felt like an insult. Every group of laughing friends reminded me of how small my world had become. I had poured so much of myself into Rachel that I hadn't noticed how much I'd let everything else wither. My friendships, my hobbies, my sense of self. One night, around midnight, I ended up outside a bar we used to frequent. The kind of divey spot with cheap whiskey and sticky floors, not glamorous, but it was ours. We used to sit in the back corner, Rachel sipping vodka sodas while pretending to hate the jukebox songs I knew she secretly loved. I stood across the street, staring at the neon sign flickering in the window, wondering if she'd ever walk in there again, this time with him. If she'd laugh in that same carefree way. If she'd ever remember how she once said, "This is our spot. Promise me we'll grow old drinking here." Promises. So easy to make when you're drunk on infatuation. So easy to break when someone richer, shinier, newer walks through the door. I didn't go in. I turned and walked the other way. But something changed in me that night. I stopped trying to hold onto the ghost of what we were. I stopped romanticizing the version of Rachel that existed only in my memories. She wasn't a victim of circumstance. She wasn't confused or torn or scared. She made a calculated choice to trade loyalty for luxury. And that wasn't love. That was convenience. That was ambition disguised as affection. I went home, opened a blank document on my laptop, and started writing everything, not for her, not even for closure, but for me. Every paragraph was a piece of myself I'd given away. Every page a step toward reclaiming what she never really valued, my truth, my pain, my voice. And for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. About a month after she left, I got a letter. Not a text, not an email, a physical, handwritten letter in a cream envelope with my name scrawled in her familiar cursive. My hands trembled as I held it. I didn't open it right away. I sat on the edge of the couch, just staring at it like it might explode in my hands. Part of me wanted to burn it unread. The other part, the part that still remembered the way she used to whisper my name in the dark, needed to know what she had to say. When I finally opened it, the scent of her perfume rose up from the paper like a cruel trick. And then I read it. Slowly. Word by word. It wasn't an apology. Not really. It was a justification. A soft, passive explanation wrapped in vague regret and poetic nonsense. She wrote about feeling lost, about how she needed to explore who she was outside of us, how she didn't expect things with Tyler to happen, but sometimes the heart knows what it wants before the mind catches up. She thanked me for being her rock, for loving her through her worst, and ended with the sentence, "Please don't hate me, I'll always be grateful for our chapter." Our chapter. Like we were some damn book she just closed and filed away. I stared at those words for a long time, letting the weight of them settle in. She didn't see the end of our relationship as a tragedy. She saw it as a stepping stone. A phase. A necessary loss on her way to something bigger, brighter, richer. And I was just the guy who held the door open for her while she walked into someone else's life. I didn't respond. Not because I had nothing to say, I had everything to say. But I knew she wasn't looking for truth. She wanted forgiveness. Closure. She wanted to absolve herself without facing the wreckage she left behind. And I wasn't going to give her that. Not anymore. Let her live with the silence. Let her wonder what part of me broke beyond repair. Because something did break. But not in the way she probably imagined. I started rebuilding my life from the inside out. I got back into the gym not to impress anyone, but to feel strong in my own skin again. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected, told them the truth, let them see the pain I'd tried so hard to hide. And slowly, they pulled me back from the edge. They reminded me of who I was before Rachel, before I twisted myself into someone else's dream. And the most surprising thing? I didn't miss her. I missed the idea of her. The comfort. The illusion. The future we'd planned that never really existed. But her? The real Rachel? The one who could smile in my face while sleeping in another man's bed? No. I didn't miss that version of her. I pitied her. Because whatever she found with Tyler, whatever world she stepped into, it came at the cost of something she'll never get back. Real love. Unconditional love. The kind of love that doesn't vanish the second a richer man smiles your way. I folded the letter back into the envelope, walked to the fireplace, and tossed it into the flames. I didn't watch it burn. I just turned and walked away. Life doesn't stop for heartbreak, it just keeps moving, dragging you along with it whether you're ready or not. The hardest part wasn't the nights, though those were brutal. It was the mornings. Waking up alone in a bed that once held two people, feeling the weight of that empty space beside me. I'd reach out instinctively, only to feel cold sheets and be reminded that she was never coming back. That realization came again and again like a punch to the chest. Some mornings I couldn't even get up. I just laid there, staring at the ceiling, trying to find a reason to care about anything at all. But time, as cruel as it is, also heals in slow, quiet ways. One morning I woke up and didn't reach for her side of the bed. I just stared out the window, watched the sun crawl over the buildings, and felt okay. Not good. Not happy. But okay. That was a start. Work helped. I threw myself into it like it was the only thing tethering me to the world. Overtime. Extra projects. Volunteering for things no one else wanted to do. It wasn't passion, it was survival. A distraction big enough to silence the thoughts. And yet, through that relentless grind, I started to rediscover pieces of myself I had forgotten. My ambition. My drive. My sense of self-worth. They'd all been buried beneath the weight of trying to be enough for someone who never truly saw me. I remember one moment in particular. I was standing in front of a conference room giving a presentation I'd worked on for weeks. It was technical, detailed, precise, something I'd once have asked Rachel to help me rehearse. But there I was, alone, confident, in control. When the room erupted in applause, something clicked inside me. I wasn't the broken man she left behind anymore. I was becoming someone new. Someone whole. Of course, there were setbacks. Random triggers. A song on the radio. A scent in a store. A woman on the street who looked like her from behind, same walk, same blonde hair. My heart would leap, then crash back down as reality set in. Healing isn't linear. It's a mess of progress and pain, of false starts and quiet victories. But every time I pulled myself out of the spiral, I came back stronger. And then, one evening, I saw them together. It was accidental. I was at a new bar with coworkers, one I'd never been to before. We were celebrating a project launch. I was laughing, drinking, finally feeling like myself again. And then I turned around and there she was. Rachel. On the other side of the room. Her hand in his. Dressed like she'd walked out of a luxury magazine. Perfect makeup. Polished smile. She looked straight through me. Our eyes met. For a second. Just long enough for recognition to flicker. She hesitated just barely, then turned back to him, whispered something, and laughed. The same laugh she once gave me. I didn't freeze. I didn't panic. I just watched her for a moment longer, then turned back to my drink and let it go. Because in that moment I realized something I hadn't dared to believe until then. I was free. Really free. Not just from her, but from the version of myself who thought I needed her to be complete. She didn't ruin me. She revealed me. And the man I was becoming? He was better off without her. After that night, something in me shifted permanently. It wasn't just that I'd seen her again, it was the fact that seeing her didn't hurt. Not really. It was like watching a trailer for a movie I'd already seen, one that I knew the ending to. There was no curiosity left, no longing, no hope of reconciliation. Just a quiet acknowledgement that the chapter was over and had been for a long time. The version of me that once believed she was the best thing that ever happened to him had finally, mercifully, died. I started doing things I hadn't done in years. Simple things. I bought a bike and rode around the lake every weekend, letting the wind and sun remind me I was alive. I started painting again, not because I was good at it, but because it let me feel something. I joined a local book club, not to meet women, but to talk about stories that didn't involve betrayal or heartbreak. Slowly, I was stitching together a life that had nothing to do with her. And yet, the ghost of Rachel lingered in strange ways. Not in my heart, but in my habits. I still flinched when someone's phone buzzed late at night. Still hesitated to trust someone's smile. Still waited for the floor to fall out from under me whenever things felt too good. Betrayal doesn't just hurt, it rewires you. It makes you suspicious of kindness, hesitant to hope. But I was learning. Slowly. I was learning that not everyone would use my love as a stepping stone. That maybe, just maybe, I could be vulnerable again without being destroyed. One evening, while grocery shopping of all things, I ran into Melissa, Rachel's old friend. We hadn't spoken since the fallout. She looked surprised to see me, maybe even a little uncomfortable. I smiled, offered a polite nod, and tried to keep walking, but she stopped me. I didn't know, she said, I soft with guilt. I swear, I didn't know how deep it was with them. I didn't ask who them referred to. I just nodded. It's fine. But she didn't stop. He was married, you know. Tyler. He had a wife. Left her, too. That caught me off guard. I blinked, unsure if I'd heard her right. What? Yeah, she said, looking around like she wasn't supposed to say it. Left her about a month before he and Rachel started going public. His ex showed up at one of our mutual friends' parties. Said he did the same thing to her. Promised her everything, then dropped her when someone shinier came along. I didn't know what to say. It was like the final piece of a puzzle snapping into place. The full shape of the truth finally revealed. And I didn't feel vindicated. I felt nothing. Because even with that knowledge, even with the confirmation that Rachel had walked into someone else's betrayal like it was love, it didn't change what had happened to me. It didn't undo the pain, and it didn't heal the scar. But it did reinforce one thing I'd come to accept. Sometimes, people don't betray you because you're not enough. They betray you because they're addicted to more. More excitement, more attention, more validation, and eventually even that more stops being enough for them. I walked away from Melissa without another word, pushing my cart through the fluorescent aisles, my thoughts quiet. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need karma. I didn't even need the universe to make it right, because I had something better. I had myself back. Healing, as I came to learn, doesn't come with fanfare. It doesn't arrive all at once in a moment of triumph or clarity. It sneaks in quietly on ordinary days, when you realize you haven't thought about them in hours. When a song you used to cry to comes on and you just listen. When someone smiles at you and you smile back. Not out of politeness, but because it feels good. That's how it happened for me. Not with some grand epiphany, but with the slow, steady reclamation of myself. I stopped measuring my worth by what Rachel did to me. For a long time, I let her betrayal define me. I wore it like a wound, a permanent mark etched into my identity. But it wasn't who I was. It was something that happened to me. Painful chapter, yes. A devastating loss, sure. But not the whole book. And the more I leaned into that truth, the freer I became. I even started dating again cautiously at first. Not with the goal of finding someone to replace her, but with the intention of rediscovering connection. Human warmth. Shared laughter. The kind of simple joy I'd convinced myself I wasn't ready for. There were a few awkward conversations, a couple of false starts, and one short-lived relationship that fizzled when I realized I was trying too hard to prove I was okay. But it was part of the process. Part of learning to open my heart without handing over the keys to it too quickly. One woman stood out. Her name was Elise. We met at a bookstore of all places, both reaching for the same copy of a classic novel. It sounds cliché, but something about her energy was different. Grounded. Real. She didn't ask about my past on our first date. She didn't try to impress or be impressed. She was just present. We talked for hours, not about exes or heartbreak, but about books, cities we wanted to visit, little fears we'd never said out loud. With her, I didn't feel the need to prove I'd healed. I just felt understood. We're not in love. Not yet. Maybe never. And that's okay. Because what Elise gave me, what she continues to give, is proof that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. That affection can exist without hidden agendas. That there's beauty in starting over, even when the ruins of your past still loom in the background. I think about Rachel sometimes, not often, but in quiet moments. Not with anger, not even with sorrow, just curiosity. I wonder if she's happy, if she ever looks back, if she realizes what she traded and why. But it doesn't consume me. Her story is no longer mine to carry. Mine is a story of survival, of rediscovery, of the long, hard journey back to myself. And for the first time in years, I'm proud of the man I see in the mirror. Not because he was never broken, but because he didn't stay broken. Sometimes I revisit the old memories, not out of longing, but as a reminder of how far I've come. I think about the man I was during those last few months with Rachel. How desperately I tried to hold together something that was already in pieces. How I mistook silence for stability. How I believed that loving harder could fix a heart that had already wandered. There's a particular kind of shame that comes with loving someone who's already left you in every way but physically. It's like clinging to a shadow, begging it to stay while it slowly dissolves in the light of truth. But I don't resent that version of myself. He didn't know better. He was doing the best he could with the pieces he had. And now, with time and space and painful clarity, I can finally honor him. I can look back and say, you were not weak. You were human. You loved fully, and that is never something to be ashamed of. Rachel once told me that I was too steady. She said it like a flaw, as if consistency and reliability were boring. She craved chaos even if she never said it outright. The drama, the thrill, the chase, that's what drew her to Tyler, to that whole world of rooftop parties and curated perfection. She called it growth. I call it escape. Because true growth isn't found in abandoning what's real. It's found in staying when it's hard, in communicating when it's messy, in choosing to build something solid when it would be easier to chase something shiny. I know now that I wasn't just collateral damage in her journey of self-discovery. I was the steady ground she stood on while she figured out how to fly. And when she did, she didn't care if she burned everything behind her on the way up. But I survived the fire. More than that, I rebuilt from it. And what I've built is stronger than what I lost. My boundaries are sharper now. My standards higher. I no longer confuse intensity for intimacy. I don't romanticize emotional unavailability or mistake passion for possession. I see love differently now, not as something that consumes, but as something that complements. Something that allows you to be whole beside someone, not because of them. There's a peace in knowing you don't need the person who hurt you to apologize in order to heal. That closure doesn't come from a conversation, it comes from accepting the truth and deciding not to let it define you. Rachel may never admit what she did. She may never see it the way I do. And that's okay. Her truth isn't mine to control. My truth is this: I was betrayed, I was broken, but I am not bitter. I am better. And that is enough. It's strange how life softens around the edges when you finally stop holding onto the sharp things. For so long, I thought the pain was what kept me grounded, that if I let it go, I'd lose my connection to the truth. But it turns out healing isn't forgetting. It's remembering without flinching. It's looking back at the fire and feeling warmth instead of burn. It's walking past the ruins and not feeling the need to dig through them anymore. There was a time when the thought of Rachel moved through me like glass, slicing, sharp, unbearable. But now she's more like a name in a story I once read. A character in a chapter I've already finished. I still carry the lessons, yes. The warnings. The echoes. But the wound is closed. The bleeding stopped a long time ago. And in its place, there's something solid. Something earned. Not pride, exactly, but peace. If I saw her again, truly saw her, face to face, I think I'd thank her. Not for what she did, but for what it taught me. I would never wish that kind of betrayal on anyone. But it woke me up. It shattered the illusions I was too afraid to confront. It made me face myself, not just the parts one liked, but the parts I'd hidden. My need for validation. My fear of abandonment. My desperate desire to be chosen, even when it meant shrinking myself. I had to unlearn all of that. And I did. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see a man who knows his worth. Who doesn't beg for love? Who doesn't chase after people who run? Who understands that real connection doesn't demand you sacrifice your soul just to keep someone interested? I'm not perfect. I still have my scars. I still have my quiet nights where the past tugs at me. But I no longer drown in it. Love came back to me in small, surprising ways. In the kindness of strangers. In the laughter of old friends. In the quiet moments of stillness where I felt content without needing anyone beside me. And maybe one day it'll come again in the shape of a person, someone who sees me clearly, chooses me without hesitation, and stays not because they need to, but because they want to. But until then, I am whole. Not waiting. Not lacking. Just whole. To anyone out there who's been betrayed, who's been left behind, who's been told by action or word that they weren't enough, let me tell you, they were wrong. You are not broken. You are not unlovable. You are not disposable. You are a storm that learned to stand still. You are the quiet strength that rises after the fall. Rachel didn't steal my future. She just made room for a better one. And that's the real ending.